At this time, I would like to welcome and introduce our very first TED Talk speaker. Horacio Sanchez is the president and CEO of Resiliency, Inc., an agency leader in helping schools improve school climate, instruction, and discipline. Horacio is recognized as one of the nation's prominent experts to promoting student resiliency and applying brain science to improve school outcomes. The Maladaptive Council Academy of Science recognizes him as a leading authority on emotional disorders and resiliency. He is a highly sought-after speaker and has keynoted many national conferences. Horacio has been a teacher, administrator, clinician, mental health director, and consultant to the Department of Education in North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and other states. His diverse education and background has helped him to merge research, science, and practice. Horacio sits on the True Health Initiative Council of Directors, a coalition of more than 250 world-renowned health experts committed to educating on proven principles of lifestyle and medicine. He has authored several articles and books on the topics of resiliency, closing the achievement gap, and applying neuroscience to improve educational practices and outcomes. Horacio is my personal friend, mentor, coach, and I'm so excited to welcome him to the stage. Let's give him a nice round of applause and start us off.
Talk 10 minutes, so we move fast. Your brain is adapting every second of every day to your environment. I can't get it louder. How about this? That's the loudest I have. Still no? I can't eat the mic, buddy. Okay, better? Okay. Your brain is adapting at all times to your environment. Some changes in your environment are contained, and they actually impact certain groups of people. Some changes in the environment are pervasive and end up impacting the majority. Let me give you an example of a contained adaptation. Researchers started to track boys who were persistently exposed to violence, and they found that they developed a tag near the SLC6A4 gene. What does this gene do? Okay, you have an amygdala, your emotional brain, and that's in charge of all your emotions. So let's say you get really upset. This gene dispenses serotonin to allow you to calm down. But the tag seemed to inhibit that, and when these boys got upset, it took them a long time to come down, sometimes as much as 3 days, and as a result, they were making bad decisions and became highly impulsive, changing the trajectory of their lives. Now, this simple change can have long-term ramifications. We track those boys from childhood, adolescence into adulthood, and sometimes when they gave birth to their children, guess what happened? Some of those kids were born with the adaptation, impacting their abilities, stopping them from being able to soothe themselves or calm down, increasing their risk of poor life outcomes. This is a limited adaptation because most boys are not exposed to violence. As a result, it only impacts a group of people. Pervasive environmental changes impact large numbers of people. Later today, I'll be talking to you about changes that your grandparents, your parents did not face, you are facing, and your kids are facing significantly. It is how technology is impacting empathy and the ability to maintain singular focus. But let me give you an example of a widespread adaptation. Keyes in the 1940s did a study on eating. And Keyes found out that you can actually program obesity. All it takes is what? Meals concentrated with sugars or fats changes the brain from saying, without the saying, I'm hungry, I'm full, to desiring foods that are high in sugars or fats if you intake too much of it too often. At the time we did the study, 11% of the world was at risk of genetic obesity, 8% of the world America was actually obese, less than 1% of children and adolescents showed obesity. But what he found out is, if you concentrate it enough, guess what happens? People have a craving for foods high in sugars or fats, no longer dealing with hungry or not hungry. The food industry decided, okay, let's capitalize on this research and see if we can create a desire for our food. They found out if you can concentrate meals high enough in sugars or fats, you will crave it and you can do it as fast as 8 weeks. So this gave birth to what is called the meal deals, where they said, okay, it is cheaper for you to buy this meal than these separate components. And the meals were designed to spike sugars and fats. The health industry said, okay, this could have large ramifications to the population. We need to do something about this. They sent letters to the food industry saying, you can't do this. The impact will be severe. Ignored. They sent it to the CDC. They said, we need to stop this. Ignored. As a result, we found more and more people craving foods higher in sugars or fats. Now, perfect storm. We now know something about the brain that was peculiar. When you consume foods high in sugars or fats, you subconsciously feel better. What does subconscious mean? It happens in 400 milliseconds or less. You don't know it happened, but it'll influence your future thoughts and actions. So what does this mean in real life? Let's say you're having a really tough day. You decide to have a Snickers bar. Sugar spikes, you subconsciously feel better, but the feeling goes away very quickly. You might be motivated to do what? Have another Snickers bar. As a result, we started to find out people were actually eating foods high in sugars or fats to feel better. Now, perfect storm. Cortisol levels in the general population have been consistent for years. In the last 10 years, the general cortisol level, stress hormone, of the general population is higher. Your stress hormone, resting, is higher than your parents and grandparents. But guess what we now know? Your children's cortisol levels, stress, and adolescent hormone levels are higher now than ever before. Now we think this is happening because of a few things. One, the pace of your life. You are working faster, you are moving faster than ever before. It is creating stress, and many of you are never off work. Two, we find out that the intake of information for the brain is too much. You're taking in too much information all the time. And three, we found out screen time. The more you see a screen, the higher your cortisol levels go. As a result, more and more people have elevated cortisol, and we now believe you are eating more and more foods high in sugars or fats to self-medicate. I'll show you a map, and the map will show you the increase of obesity by state. Every new color says it's going higher, and you'll see it by years. I know what you're thinking. You need to move to Colorado. Okay. Look at the data. 1940s, obesity is 8% in America, less than 1% in children and adolescents. Fast forward to today. Over 40% obesity in adults. 1 in 5 children are considered obese. Colorado. I point you to Colorado for a few reasons. Colorado showed us that adaptations can be reversed very quickly with some minor changes in behavior. What Colorado did was, as a state decided they didn't want to be obese, and they set up an organization, and the organization went after 2 behaviors. The first one was eat healthy, and they promoted eating healthy, eat less processed food, eat less processed foods, and then they said this: We are going to point out places you can go. Oh, that restaurant serves healthier foods. That grocery store carries healthier foods. And they started doing that consistently, and people started eating healthier. The next thing they did was they promoted activity. We're in Colorado, we're active, we're out there, we're active. And as a result, they became one of the most active states in the United States. And they only stopped obesity, they started reversing it. And then they went after your kids. They went into schools and started to improve what kids consumed in schools and increased overall activity. Why is this important for you? Because I'm going to talk about technology and 2 adaptations that impact your children. And you can reverse those adaptations very quickly with some changes in behavior. Technology is not going away, technology isn't bad, but it's caused 2 unexpected outcomes. But you can stop those outcomes by being in Colorado for your kids. Thanks.